This is Daily Politics on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you for joining us tonight. On the program, we'll get a clear look at the fights tearing through two key opposition parties as Nigerians prepare for what's to come in 2027. In the NNPP, the New Nigeria People's Party, the crisis has taken yet another dramatic turn. A federal high court has ordered INEC not to recognize the Kwankwaso-led faction of the party, widening the internal split and raising questions about who controls the NNPP. Elsewhere, the Labour Party isn't any calmer as Julius Abura's faction held a NEC meeting in Abuja with Deputy Baba Ahmed, the running mate of their presidential candidate in 2023. Many see it as an attempt to tighten Abura's grip on the party despite the counter-caretaker committee announced by Peter Obi and Governor Alex Otti. Now, these clashes go beyond the personalities involved as they shape how the opposition parties position themselves for an election cycle that will test every structure they claim to have. First, we'll be speaking with the national chairman of the NNPP, Agbo, and then, of course, understand the latest developments within the party, especially considering their political stock and some of the developments around the major defections that had hit the political party. But first, let's bring you up to speed with the latest political developments in the polity.
The Osun PDP leadership says Governor Demola Adeleke may step back from seeking the party's ticket for the 2026 governorship race. His position could shift if the party resolves its internal crisis and secures the INEC's recognition within the commission's timeline. Taraba Governor Agbo met President Bola Tinubu at the presidential villa Monday. He arrived with APC National Chairman Professor Nantawe Ilwata before going into a closed-door session. This is his first visit to the villa since defecting from the PDP to the APC. Daniel Bwala, the special advisor to President Tinubu on policy communication, says the federal government will soon name individuals and networks funding terrorism. He added that the administration is already taking firm security decisions that Nigerians will see in the coming days. The Sultan of Sokoto, Saad Abubakar II, has asked northern governors to take criticism seriously and use it to improve governance. He said ignoring feedback slows efforts to tackle insecurity, poverty, and economic hardship. He spoke at the joint meeting of northern governors and traditional rulers in Kaduna.
The latest update there in the polity with Shafiu Suleiman for this week's edition of State of the Nation with Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed. Here's the latest installation. Have a look.
Now that there appears to be some active noticeable activity around the African Democratic Congress, ADC, a lot of the big guns there are finally committing to the party. And now we know that it has leadership and is getting ready to present an alternative to the ruling party. I think those who had worried about the state of our democratic process should relax a little bit. Between the ADC, what will be left of the PDP when the ruling party finishes with it, and other parties that might want to enter into some kind of alliance, we should be able to cobble together an opposition that will challenge the ADC. I'm not saying this because I am particularly eager about having an opposition made up of a PDP and ADC, but because it is vital for the health and survival of our democracy that somebody, somewhere, an important and strong political party or parties challenge the APC. As things are, the ruling party thinks it's virtually won the 2027 elections. It has cannibalized other parties, gobbled up huge numbers of people who hold political offices, and is behaving as if it is virtually going to just roll over into the next election. Now, if this kind of mindset persists in the APC, you will begin to see it manifested already in governance. And we still have more than a year and a half to go. This party, the ruling party, has the presidency, it has three-quarters of the National Assembly. It has, I think, 25 or 26 governors. And when you talk about governors, generally you also talk about their state assemblies. And a huge war chest. And it's not running this country the way it should. Perhaps part of the reason why APC is failing to meet standards, particularly in these periods of emergency, when we should see a leadership and a party alive and kicking and addressing emergencies, addressing issues that need the leadership to think outside the box. It is quite possible that the ADC doesn't think that it has an opposition worth worrying about. And that is worrying in itself. Because we cannot have a democracy where one party is in government and behaving as if it has also won the next election. It owes us nothing. It does not have to promise anything. And it will take the people for granted. So it's a good thing that we are beginning to see the outlines of a strong opposition. And this opposition will only be as strong as it makes itself. We have to see an opposition that presents genuine alternative to the ADC in what they do, who is their faces, whether it is just simply a vessel of ambitions of strong or visible politicians, or it is genuinely an alternative to the ADC. Whether it is going to be a political party that Nigerians will look at the APC and say, we will take a risk with a new party. It has got to say what it stands for. It has got to give itself an identity that Nigerians can relate to. It has got to go out beyond Abuja and canvass for the trust and the confidence of Nigerians, so that Nigerians can say, yeah, in 2027, we have an option, we have an alternative. We have a history where a ruling party lost an election. It is not going to be a disaster if an opposition party in this country works hard enough, thinks well enough, organizes well enough, and respects the public well enough to make sure, to see if it can actually win the next election. If the APC wants to win the next election, it's got to change its style, its levels of complacency, and this idea that it has completely taken up the entire political space, and therefore Nigeria should expect it to come back. It could make a mistake, but the worst mistake that will be made by an opposition which simply takes it for granted that because the Tinubu administration is not doing as well as it is doing, Nigerians are going to vote for it. Nigerians are looking for credible, strong alternative to the life that we live now.
Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed there with his take on this week's State of the Nation as he talks about opposition politics and what is happening with some of the major political parties in the opposition in Nigeria as we prepare for the biggest showdown come 2027. We're going to be speaking with one of the leaders of those major opposition political parties, National Chairman of the NNPP, Mr. Agbo is here with us this evening to talk about the internal crisis that continues to rock one of the best performers in the 2023 general elections, one might add, because it is the political party that ranked fourth in terms of the presidential election and one that got some bite in terms of the market share of electoral votes in 2023. Mr. Agbo, it's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here.
Some would say it's a lot more appropriate for me to say factional national chairman of the NNPP.
Well, before now, I have always permitted you to say that, but for today, it's confirmed. I wouldn't want to hear that from you anymore. Yeah.
What's happening with the INEC website? Because I had to check before coming on air, and it's still showing Dr. Ahmed there. What's going on between you and INEC? Why have they not recognized you?
Well, you recall that the recent orders, orders because there are two. One came on the 25th, which was towards the end of last week. And that is quite clear that INEC should cease any further dealings with the so-called Juji-led NWC, by implication, the Kwankwaso and his Kwankwasia-led NWC. Then we returned again to say, how do we serve them? These are very hostile people. And the court said again on the 27th, go and serve them through substituted means. You know, you recall that the matter initially is more like a judicial review because we had, you know, two subsisting court judgments, which INEC under Professor Mahmood, you know, consistently ignored. And so what we did as a law-abiding political party was to go back to the same court, especially the one at the FCT High Court, to say, okay, well, this is your judgment, but they are saying that this means nothing to them as a government agency. So we need a review of this, you know. So the FCT High Court came again to say, okay, we are aware that they ignored our judgment. What we will do now is let's do a review, and then we pass further judgments. That's where we are now. So in the course of doing this, the matter originally was between us and INEC. You know, it was aimed directly at compelling INEC to do what the court has asked it to do. You know, but along the way, in their usual style, the Kwankwaso-led NWC came in and asked to be joined. And for the purpose of fairness, they were allowed by the court to join, you know. So when these orders came, you know, within a span of about 24, 48 hours, we now said, okay, it's no longer us and INEC alone. We also needed to serve a group of people that are not friendly at all. So what do we do? And the court on the 27th gave a go ahead. That
you say that as if they don't have a dog in the fight. Essentially, if the court order is implemented by INEC, it pushes them out of the equation. So they do have a dog in this fight.
But I've always told you here that these people ceased to be members of our party since August 2023. We terminated the MOU that brought us together. And then the convention that was held based on established party constitution and rules and extant rules, the convention that was held in Lagos, you know, dismissed them from the party. And so all along, they've always been there claiming to be members of the party and even laying claim to the leadership of the party. And we do not believe that the right thing to do is to go challenge them directly. And so we have always resorted, because the beauty of every democratic setup is the rule of law. And so we decided to explore that angle. And the court spoke right from Abia. The Uzuakoli High Court spoke first and said that the party leadership was effectively in the hands of the BOT. And the BOT was under instructions to convene a national convention, you know, congresses from the world to the national convention. That was the exercise that produced me. But INEC, of course, in their usual style under Mahmoud, not the present one, because we now have an INEC that is led by a legal luminary that has complete respect for the rule of law. So we have given him a chance to do what is right. But under Mahmoud, the place was just something else where people did whatever they wanted to do and all of that. And we cried out repeatedly here to say, look, this is not good for our democracy and so on and so forth.
So many people would say, to be fair, this is a self-inflicted injury. This is something politicians in this country have normalized. You make a mess of the situation and then you blame a regulator like INEC, who, to be honest, to be fair, is just a regulator. I mean, the Supreme Court verdict is that in the case of the PDP, for instance, internal party affairs should be internal party affairs. Play by your own rules.
No.
And INEC is only but an observer in some cases and a regulator at best when it comes to elections.
Before I deal directly with the poser you are raising, let me tell you that the position of the Supreme Court is not that every matter that borders on the leadership of the party is an inter-leadership affair that should be left for the party to settle. That's not what the Supreme Court said. Yeah, but the Supreme Court said, yes, internal affairs of the party most times are not justiciable. But if the problem, what has generated the problem has to do directly, or is an infringement on the constitution of the country, of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It makes it justiciable. That is the difference that most media people do not understand. So they just lump everything together and say it is the internal affair of a political party, and the Supreme Court is clear on it. It's not justiciable. But the difference is always that if the rights of an individual within a political party or a group within a political party, or maybe the leadership, the entire leadership structure of the political party is infringed upon, and it is a clear violation of constitutional provisions, especially as it relates to freedom of association and all of that, is justiciable. But if it is not in any way an infringement on the rights of anybody or on the rights of leadership of a political party and so on, it becomes an internal affair of the party which the party has to look inwards to settle. So that is one angle to it. Going directly to your poser, there is no injury in NNPP that is self-inflicted. What we did that brought us to where we are now was in clear adherence to the constitution that guides our party. This is a constitution that all of us subscribed to, as the statute book that should guide our operations as a political party. And so we clearly saw people who were just not prepared, to be led by the dictates of that constitution. We also saw people who violated clearly the dictates of the understanding that brought us together with them. And so we said, no, this is not in line
when
with...
When you say we, you're talking about a portion of the party, not a major portion of the party, because they would also make the same argument as you're making right now. So how is one opinion bigger or better than the other?
I'm taking you back to how the marriage took place. Right. So when I say we, I'm talking about the original members of the political party that admitted the Kwankwasia-led group with its leader, Rabbi Musa Kwankwaso. So that's why I'm saying we,
So you're lumping everybody else on that side?
Not everybody else. They know themselves. So they came in as a group. And I've always said this on air here.
Is Ajuji one of them?
Yes, Ajuji is a member of the Kwankwasia group.
Right.
The Kwankwaso came into the party. I am a signatory to the MOU that were eventually dissolved in 2023. So I am the one to tell you what is therein. Two groups came into the party, two pressure groups. The Kwankwasia group, and then, the national whatever. They came in, under the umbrella of these two groups, and we had that agreement. You understand what I'm saying? So Ajuji, I can't remember clearly if he came in through Kwankwasia group or through the other group, but I can tell you that he was not a member of our party. He came through one of those groups.
What about Mr. Dipo Layoko?
Yeah, Dipo, yeah, we have always been with Dipo, but I don't like talking about him on air because I will be forced to use some derogatory, words that won't be.
I'm sure you can try your best to be civil. I'm sure you can try your best.
Well, I think the case of Dipo is just a case of somebody who just decided to go against, the opportunities that he had, because we gave him the opportunity to represent the original NNPP side in the National Working Committee that was put in place after the union between us and the Kwankwasia group. You recall that as at then, I was the National Secretary before they came. So what we needed to do was, I wasn't, in the face of democracy and true representation and respect for constitutionality, it would have been wrong morally too if I had insisted on continuing as secretary. And so we needed somebody from our side because it was more like a power sharing stuff. They took the chairman, we took the secretary, like that. So that was how Dipo emerged. But eventually, I'm trying to be civil, like you said. He decided to go.
You feel betrayed by him?
Well, I think that's the appropriate word. That's the appropriate word.
I'm sure he disagrees.
Because he didn't do anything that helped to foster the interest of the bloc from where he was coming.
Okay. So it's safe to say that you're not just fighting against the Kwankwasia group that you say you signed an MOU with. There are other people who were in the same journey with you, on the same journey with you, who are also on the Kwankwasia side of the argument, isn't it?
No. When you say other people, I think you are being too generous. Everybody that came with us from our side into that marriage returned back to our side when the marriage could not continue, except Dipo Layoko.
He's the only one.
Go and check the statistics. Go and check the records.
Right. You blamed INEC under Mahmoud Yakubu for failing to recognize those court orders that pretty much legitimizes your claim to the leadership of the National Working Committee of the New Nigeria People's Party. It's safe to say that nothing has changed as at the last few minutes ago, because we still have uploaded the latest screenshot of the INEC website and they still recognize Dr. Ajuji. My question to you is, what do you think is playing out here? Because clearly it's not a problem with the last leadership. This particular leadership of INEC also, so far, doesn't see reason why it should recognize your claim to the leadership of the
We are
NNPP.
not, you and I are not staff of INEC. So we won't be able,
Yeah, but that's the fact.
hold on, it won't be safe to conclude that way. That's one angle to it.
I'm saying the fact of the matter, as far as we know.
The second angle is that 27th was just Friday. Today is first. Today is the first working day of the week. It's not as automatic as you think it should be. It doesn't happen that way. As I speak to you
But
now,
there were court orders before then.
yeah, those were orders. Those were orders that Mahmoud flagrantly refused to execute. Not just orders, judgments, substantive judgments, which as at today are still subsisting. They haven't been, no damage has been done to those judgments. So that's why we can, confidently say that Mahmoud was more like an NNPP member from the Kwankwasia side, because he was clearly...
You think Professor Mahmoud took sides?
Yes, he did. He did. But like I said, that's not what I'll be putting on air here.
I mean, you've already put
But
it
as
out
a
there.
chairman of the party, I have my facts to buttress that. He took sides. We did everything possible within the ambits of the law to get him to understand that he was overstepping his bounds legally. But it never made any sense to him. So the safest thing to do is to conclude that he was on their side. In fact, there are so many things we had from the sidelines that wouldn't be right to be put on air here. So what I'm trying to let you know is that I just told you that what has happened at the FCT High Court, you recall that they were the ones that took us to that court. When Abia High Court directed that our congresses and convention be held, they approached the court to say no, that we cannot allow this. And the court initially gave them a reprieve, and our process was put on hold for about a week. Due respect for the rule of law. And after that, we returned when the order had vacated itself to conclude the process. So they were the ones that took us to court. But at the end of the matter, they were roundly defeated. They took us to court as plaintiffs who were defendants in that matter. We were taken to court, they took us, and they failed. Today, we are the judgment creditors while they are the debtors. So Mahmoud, in his own wisdom, decided to do what he did. He has done it, he has gone. It is now left for history to judge him whether he did what was right in the interest of the development of our party and maybe by extension other political parties in the country or not. Now, we have a new sheriff, a legal luminary, a son for that matter, somebody who is an astute author in law matters, And we expect that he should do what is right. Like I said, the first order was on the 25th. It's a reinforcement of that judgment because we went to court, the same court, to say, review this your judgment. Why is INEC, as a government organization, as a government agency, not implementing your judgment? You understand? That is the process that is on now. And the court in its wisdom said, fine, this is good. We passed the judgment, and as we speak now, it is yet to be executed. So the reinforcement is that henceforth, INEC, don't do anything with the so-called Ajuji-led group. That is by extension the Kwankwasia group. We want you to be dealing with the Major Abdullahi side until the final determination of the matter.
Right.
You get what I'm telling you?
Adjourned till December 10.
Yes.
Right. Justice Kawu's orders categorically barred INEC from basically uploading, publishing, or recognizing any party logo, communication, or document originating from the Ajuji-led faction, pending the determination of its judicial review. The court also directed NNPP to serve all processes on the respondents within 5 days. I'd like to assume that you have already, right?
Served them?
Yeah.
Yes, it's substituted means now.
Right.
They are served already.
Okay.
I'm sure that the service would have been completed today.
It's safe to say that INEC hasn't complied yet.
If they completed service today, then we should expect that whatever would happen as from tomorrow.
I feel like we're repeating this conversation again because the last time the High Court gave a similar verdict a couple of months ago, you said, listen, it's going to take time before INEC does the needful. It's safe to say that a couple of months down the line, they haven't done that. I mean, given that this is a legal battle and the High Court is not necessarily the bus stop for this, there could be appeals, they could, see this case drag on until next year, only God knows when. But give me your 2 cents on what is playing out here. You've clearly, categorically accused the former INEC chairman of complicity. What do you think is playing out here as far as the regulator's role is concerned?
That question is a little bit vague, not too clear. But what I can say is to take you back to the submission I just made. I think technically, I just told you that we envisaged that there was going to be difficulties in service. Most times people delay judgments and execution of orders, when those who should be served are elusive, And that's why the court, in its wisdom again, after about 24 hours, came back again to say, serve them through substituted means. And that order came out, that order was made on the 27th, which was Friday. Today is 1st. So I think it won't be right to begin to carpet INEC for having not done anything between 8 that work officially resumed today and 4 that they closed. So let me stand by my position that what would happen must happen. We saw it in the case of the ADC when there was this drama as to who is the chairman of ADC. Is it Senator Mark? Is it this? Is it that? At the end of the day, I think after it took them even as much as 2 weeks, or more than that before David Mark and Regbe Shola's names eventually found their ways into the INEC website. So we're not bothered about that. And by the way, let me also tell you, most times we try to get you journalists to understand how the political parties work. It does not matter whether the names are up there on the website or not. What is important is that every party knows who the original leaders are.
I mean, it does, to be honest. It does matter who INEC recognizes.
You are looking at that from the level of maybe if there were an election coming up in the next 1 week or 2 weeks or so, and nothing happens. Maybe Major Agbo's candidates are not taken. You can now raise an alarm.
Yeah, but
at the moment,
have you officially represented NNPP at any
for a judgment for an order that was made just on Friday? There haven't been any. There haven't been any event that has called for my attention.
Yeah, but there goes the point. If Dr. Ajuji is the one representing NNPP at INEC engagements, it means that the regulator is dealing with that.
That was before Friday.
Right.
So why don't we wait until there's an event in INEC?
Okay.
And Major Agbo is not invited.
All right. You heard the take for this week's State of the Nation with Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed, who is of the opinion that opposition parties are being cannibalized, taken apart into pieces, so much so that there's this palpable fear or concern that by 2027 we might not have real political parties to oppose the APC as far as the ballot is concerned. Maybe the ADC looks more put together, but the PDP not so much. The Labour Party crisis seems to be somewhere in between stability and chaos. Likewise, the NNPP.
The NNPP
do you share those concerns that the opposition is in disarray, especially the leading ones?
Ordinarily, every Democrat, a sincere one for that matter, should be worried when you begin to see instability within the democratic space, because it could result to anything. So I am worried, but when I hear things from people and then they're using harsh words like parties are cannibalized, they are this, these are the same people that are guilty of the things they're describing. For instance, Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed, when it was working for him, did it ever occur to him that parties were being cannibalized? At a point, I think he was essay or whatever to a vice president at the point. That was a government that Nigerians were worried about, a lot of inconsistencies, a lot of problems. He didn't deem it fit that time to come out to say...
Seems like you're focusing on the messenger, not the message.
Well, I was going to conclude, if you would allow me to conclude, I was going to tell you that the message may be important, but where it is coming from is not appealing to some of us. And that is why I started by also telling you my apprehensions about a democratic setup that is unstable. I think that was the first statement I made in reacting to your question. So that is to tell you that I am also worried about what is going on. Because in a country of well over 250 million people, if we have just 18 political parties as it stands today, and only about 4 or 5 that are within the realm of parties that you can point at as having won election, you know, critical election into critical positions and all of that, and the 4 are not stable, then every right-thinking Democrat should be worried. But be that as it may, these people should allow us to look at the problems we have, not the people who created the problems, because it will be difficult after creating a problem, and today you are on the other side of history, maybe the negative side, or you are not on the side where you are visible anymore, and every day you are raising alarm. No, democracy has to be allowed to flourish. We know the problems. But those of us who have not participated, using his word, in cannibalizing our democracy, should be allowed to think of how we're going to get our democracy back working.
Mr. Abomeja, I believe congratulations are in order as far as the court order is concerned. Let's wait and see how the week ends, or the coming week, and perhaps we'll get to circle back and discuss whether INEC has been fair with you or not. As far as your arguments is concerned, thank you so much for the analysis.
Thank you. So I can assure you that INEC will do the right thing.
Okay.
Because Professor Joash is a man with proven integrity, you know, an academic, somebody who has been tested, and we have a lot of trust, and we are completely sure that he will do what is right.
All right.
He won't come and do what Mahmoud did.
Okay.
Mahmoud is done an ambassador, so he can go and enjoy what he has done to our democracy.
Right.